chamber. I'm going to ask Fred Nelson if he will say a prayer, please.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we bow humbly before you this evening. Thankful, Lord, for this day. This day, God, that we were able to commiserate with our family, friends, our co-workers, and our general community. We thank you, Lord, for being able to gather this evening to commence with the town's business. We ask, Lord, that you share with us even a greater wisdom than you have even the moments before this prayer was opened. We thank you, Lord, for our first responders and our employees and our town board and mayor. We ask, God, that you continue to bless this community, which we call home. We thank you, Lord, as always, for our first responders, our men and women in service, wherever they may serve. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
We bring the meeting to order. Let's stand and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I made a motion.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I made a motion.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Public comments. Individuals wishing to address the board are asked to provide their name and address for the record. Anyone that wants to speak, come forward.
I do.
Come forward. State your name and your address.
Charles Warren Jr., born 1942, July the 10th. Why is it that we don't have a stoplight right there at McDonald's and Main Street? Now, Dunn and Main Street. Because there's a traffic jam down there.
We don't really have the say over where stoplights go.
Well, do you want to buy y'all stop sign to put down there and have it put up? Because I got the money. I can do that.
Well, we'd have to talk to the DOT, and we'll do that if you think we need a stoplight. We'll ask.
Of course we do. And another thing, here's a lot of streets in Benson is named by white people, but only one street that's 300 yards named after a black person. Why is that? Oh, come on, you know why is that.
No, I don't know what.
But don't you think some of the streets should be named after a black person? Since a lot of blacks live in this town.
You're asking me something I don't know the answer.
Well, I just said the councilman. Well, y'all can speak up. What are y'all here for? To get paid?
Make your comment and then let's move
I
on.
say, why is it that it's not more streets named by a black
We
person?
don't know why. We never named these streets. Just move on. We got public
Well,
comment.
how'd I put in an agenda for more streets be named after a black person?
Well, we'll take that up at a later date. Move on with your public comment. Just make your comment. What is your comment?
I just said my comment about that stoplight. Because it needs a stoplight down there. No
Thank
tractors
you.
and trailers go in and out and so forth, you know.
We'll take
It's a
that
big
into
mess.
consideration.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Warren. Anyone else that wants to come and address the board?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners, and I want to take a few minutes to give you a report on Mule Days from the Chamber perspective. The weather, as you know, was wonderful, and while the traffic appeared a little less, I believe the number attending the parade and downtown activities was in line with years past. I heard that many people parked and did a lot of walking this year. The parade attendees spread out all the way down Main Street well into the residential section. That was what we requested, and I was very glad to see that they adhered to our request. Chamber Park campsites sold out, and both the Friday night and Saturday night rodeos were sold out as well. The carnival site worked great, and we thank you for allowing us to use the location. The Chamber purchased and distributed 50 armbands for children who did not have the money to attend. Ms. Cleo and Janelle McCain, who were very familiar with the children, distributed them for us. So that was a $1,250 donation that we made to those children. We've heard so many compliments on the event, and many people who had not attended in years past came back. According to all the reports I've heard from town staff, there were no real issues. And speaking of town staff, I want to tell you how great they were. You can be really proud of your staff. They worked hard to make the event come off without a hitch, and on Thursday before Mule Days, we fed them every town employee lunch, which was catered by Meadow Village Restaurant. We're moving along downtown. The Scarecrow contest registration is going on now. That's going to be a really neat addition to our downtown activities to draw people in. And the deadline to have yours up is October the 21st at midnight. Christmas on Main will be December 3rd, and there'll be the usual tree lighting at Benson Square and a parade following. And this year we're going to have a music show following the parade in the Singing Grove. The Benson Foundation for the Arts is producing the free show for everyone. We're working hard to make Benson a Christmas town and to help our merchants have a great shopping season. Hallmark movies start October 22nd, and we'll be getting some more ideas there. Tomorrow morning, we're going to hold a Coffee Connections at the Chamber office. Our guest speaker will be Dennis Jernigan, and he's going to be talking about the 540 Turnpike, how it's progressing through Johnston County, how it's going to affect us, and some other issues going on with the 540 Turnpike. Plans are underway for 2022, and it is my prayer and hope that we'll be able to move full steam ahead and get back to some normalcy in our lives. I do want to ask this board if they would consider reactivating the Beautification Committee. That is a committee that used to exist when I first came to work that helped choose trees for Main Street and other beautification projects around town, and was like an advisor to the staff. And the trees are becoming an issue on the side streets as well as Main Street. So if this group would consider that, I would greatly appreciate it. I'm here if you need me, and I'll call anytime. And if there's anything any of us can do for you, please let us know. Thank you.
Thank you, Loretta.
Did you have any questions? Yes, ma'am. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else that wants to address the board, come forward.
I have one more question. Like, I lost my train of thought while I was over here. I'm thinking about putting a proposal together and buy that mansion up there and make it into a homeless shelter, because I noticed there's a lot of homeless people around Benson. And I think that would be a good idea if you turn that, if I can buy that, I'm planning on buying the building. Just as soon as I get in contact with the person, that if they want to sell it, I got enough money to buy the building with. And I turn it into a homeless shelter. And I'm thinking, and I believe that I can get money from the government to help fund this project that I'm working on.
We'll bring that up at the board meeting. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else wish to come and address the board? We close that part of the meeting. Department reports. Does any of the commissioners have questions of the department reports? If not, we're going to go into the public hearing. We announce the public hearing now. This is for SD 2021-04. Aaron, come forward. Oh, Ike, you need to go first.
Well, thank you, Mayor. I'm going to give you a real overview, a real quick overview. I don't think it's necessary to go too much into detail. I generally talk more than everyone likes anyway. So this is a quasi-judicial hearing. We've done a lot of these here lately, especially for Benson, a lot more than we're normally used to. So you've probably got this procedure a little more fresh in your mind than we have had in years past. You're sitting in like a panel of judges. We're gonna hear evidence from the petitioner, evidence from any, and testimony from any party in opposition to that.
I don't need to speak to the microphone.
And then you
No,
will,
anybody hear you, sir?
and then you'll make a determination, as to, applying the UDO provisions, criteria, as to whether or not to grant or deny the,
I ain't heard a word you said.
subdivision plat approval.
I ain't heard a word you said.
So all the witnesses must be sworn. The big thing, again, to remember, like some of the similar presentations like this that have come up in the past, is that you have to base your decision tonight on relevant, competent evidence submitted tonight at the hearing, not on anything that you may bring into the meeting or from any other source. So any questions about this process? We've done a few of these here in the last couple months, so this is gonna be a lot like the ones where everyone's sworn in and all that.
Ike, while you're up there, Aaron, come forward and let Ike swear you in.
You swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you, Ike.
Thank you.
Aaron Joseph, 303 East Church Street, Benson, North Carolina. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners.
Slip it a little bit closer to you.
Okay. Better? Everyone hear me? All right, this evening I will be presenting my staff report for SD 2021-04. This is for a residential subdivision preliminary plat request. And before I get started, or after, if you would like to enter the staff report and the application packet into the record, you can do that now, or if you like to do it after presentation.
I'll entertain a motion to put the packet in the record.
I made a motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay, go ahead.
All right, thank you. Okay, so again, this is a preliminary plat request for the subdivision of 41 acres into 85 single-family dwelling lots, residential lots in the town of Benson. You have two property owners, Joyce McClam and C.M. Bostic. The applicant is ABJ Investments, and the location of the parcels are highlighted in the screen on this aerial map here in red. So you'll see that it is just south of West Main Street, about less than a mile south of West Main, NC 27, and NC Highway 50 south. It is just north of McLam Tart Road, and just about less than half a mile west of US Highway 301 via West Man Street. Currently, the parcels are vacant and unimproved, and the zoning on the properties are both R11 single-family residential. The site is primarily bound by properties that are zoned R11 with residential uses. Predominant uses are residential. You do have some residential agriculture going further west, but going back east into town, you do have predominantly single-family residential R11 zoning districts. These parcels are within the extraterritorial jurisdiction. They abut the corporate boundaries just at West Man and West Brockland Street is where the corporate limits end. On the screen, you have a plat that is showing the layout of the subdivision request. I've highlighted in green where the applicant has provided a Class A buffer, landscape buffer, between the existing parcels and the proposed lots. You also have highlighted in red in that square. The top square is the one access point into the subdivision via West Main Street. And the one below it is currently a stub out, and you'll see that it has a turnaround per the Benson Fire Department. But that stubs out to another parcel and not onto a street. And then onto the left of your screen, you have highlighted in blue the stormwater facility, as well as the blue line stream that traverses the property. And a portion of that does fall within the floodplain, so there would be some riparian buffer requirements to build outside of that area. This is another image of the plat that shows in August, this board approved a 92 lot subdivision by the same applicant. And so that subdivision also included a access point with this development utilizes that access point as well to satisfy the two access points. And that is on West Brockland Street. And you also have the third at the top of the screen where the access point is onto West Main Street. And so the applicant, per the UDO, is required to have curb, gutter, and sidewalks. They have provided that. The utilities for this site will be provided by the town of Benson, water, sewer, and I believe electricity would also be serviced by the town of Benson. The applicant has opted to pay a fee in lieu instead of providing open space, which I thought, they should provide some open space. However, the subdivision that was previously approved includes an amenity active recreation site that will serve both of the developments. So they will have some active recreation, swimming pool, clubhouse, and things like that that will be approved at a later date. But that is to serve both developments. The TRC committee met, and that included Public Works, Fire, and Planning internally. And we also sent the plat out to NCDOT, Johnson County Stormwater, Sedimentation, and Erosion Division, as well as Johnston County Public Schools. There were no major concerns with the project and with the proposal as is. Of course, NCDOT is still requiring that turn lane at West Main Street. And so other than that, and of course, permits from Johnson County as far as sedimentation and erosion and stormwater will be reviewed if the approval goes through tonight. So you see on the screen the current zoning, which is R11, and you do have the surrounding zoning. Again, to the west and to the south is residential agriculture, and then going back in towards town, you have R11, that's our medium density district. This request is consistent with the adopted plans and policies. You'll see on the image in the map is our current future land use map, and it shows just below the site the number 3 there, which represents activity center number 3, which is outlined in our comprehensive land use plan to be suitable as a neighborhood activity center, suitable for medium density residential, which this proposal is requesting and reflected on this land use map. The applicant will also tonight present to you as evidence a traffic impact analysis. It was not required, but they felt that it was prudent to amend the traffic impact analysis that was provided for the previous 92 lot subdivision to reflect the addition of these lots. So I'll let them speak to that. The planning board heard this request last week, and they did unanimously recommend approval. We did not have anyone to speak in opposition of this request, and the applicant did conduct a neighborhood meeting on September 20th per the Unified Development Ordinance. That is in your application packet, those minutes from that meeting. So as Ike stated, this proceeding this evening is a quasi-judicial. You'll be looking at findings of fact, 4 findings of fact, consistency with adopted plans and policies. Does the subdivision meet all required specifications of this chapter? Does the subdivision, will the subdivision be detrimental to the use or orderly development of other properties in the surrounding area and will not violate the character of existing standards for development of properties in the surrounding area? And does the subdivision design will provide for the distribution of traffic in a manner that will avoid or mitigate congestion within the immediate area, will provide for the unified and orderly use of or extension of public infrastructure, and will not materially endanger the environment, public health, safety, or the general welfare. Again, the planning board recommended approval based on those findings of fact, and that all of the findings had been met, and staff recommends approval for this development as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.
You're welcome.
We now go into the applicant's testimony. We'll ask that the applicant or one of their representatives to come forward and present their case.
Mr. Mayor, good evening. Members of the board, good evening. My name is Tillman Pope. I'm an attorney in Dunn. I represent ABJ Investments, which is the applicant here. As you're aware, and I'm not going to repeat all of what Aaron and Ike have indicated to you as to the nature of this proceeding this evening and what we are here to consider, other than I would just like to reiterate that we're only asking for a preliminary plat approval. This is not a rezoning. We are not asking for any variances from the strict compliance of the terms of your UDO relative to curb and gutter and streets and sidewalks and things of that nature. So it is substantially similar to what you previously approved in August for the northern portion. Aaron, would you mind putting up the preliminary plat that shows the two together? Sorry, I'm technologically challenged. I'll let Aaron take care of that. We will be providing sworn testimony here this evening. We will try to be as efficient and brief with it as we can while still providing you with the necessary information to establish that all the criteria has been established. But of course, we want you to have the opportunity to ask any questions that you might have of our expert witnesses. As Aaron indicated, nobody spoke in opposition to this at the planning board, and your planning board unanimously is recommending approval to you this evening. We will have Scott Brown, civil engineer, to provide testimony. Joshua Rinke, traffic engineer, will present you with the new traffic impact analysis, and then we're going to ask Ms. Joseph her opinions as to the criteria as well. So at this time, I'll call Scott Brown as the first witness.
All right.
Raise your right hand. Swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Scott Brown, 409 Chicago Drive, Suite 112, Fayetteville, North Carolina, 2838, or 28306.
Mr. Brown, will you give the board an overview of your training, education, and experience as an engineer?
Yes, sir. I have, I'm a graduate, NC State University, 1997 graduate. I am licensed in the state of North Carolina, the state of Virginia, and the state of South Carolina as a professional engineer. I've been doing consulting work since I graduated in 97. Been a partner with 4D Site Solutions since 2006. So through those many years, I have done lots of subdivisions, commercial developments, industrial sites, as well as institutional sites. So be glad to answer any other questions related to those credentials.
At this time, Mr. Mayor, we'll tender Mr. Brown as an expert in the field of civil engineering.
So noted.
And Mr. Brown, with your training and experience as a civil engineer, have you been involved with subdivision projects that are governed by Benson's Unified Development Ordinance?
Yes, I have.
And are you familiar with the terms and conditions and provisions of Benson's Unified Development Ordinance?
I am.
And are you familiar specifically with the application that is before the board this evening requesting a preliminary subdivision plat approval for the southern half of what is presently up on the prompter?
Yes, sir. I'm familiar with it.
Okay. And are you personally familiar with the contents of the application that is requesting this approval?
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to run through as quickly as possible the 4 criteria that are required by the Benson Unified Development Ordinance to seek approval for preliminary plat approval. Based on your knowledge, education, training, and experience, are you of the opinion that the application before the board this evening is consistent with the adopted plans and policies of the town of Benson?
It is my opinion it is consistent and in agreement with the current town requirements.
And based on your knowledge, experience, education, and training, are you of the opinion that the application before the board this evening that this subdivision meets all required specifications of the Unified Development Ordinance?
Yes, it's my opinion that it does meet all requirements.
And based on your knowledge, training, education, and experience, are you of the opinion that this proposed subdivision will not be detrimental to the use or orderly development of other properties in the surrounding area and will not violate the character of existing standards for development of properties in the surrounding area?
In lieu of repeating that statement, yes, I'm in agreement with it.
That'll suffice. And finally, based on your knowledge, education, training, and experience, are you of the opinion that the proposed preliminary subdivision before the board this evening, the design of which will provide for the distribution of traffic in a manner that will avoid or mitigate congestion within the immediate area, and will provide for the unified and orderly use of or extension of public infrastructure, and will not materially endanger the environment, public health, safety, or the general welfare?
I agree with that statement.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have for this one.
Hold. Can I ask?
You're out of order.
Well, what can I ask a question?
No, you're out of order.
Well, will there be any low income in that development? Low income?
You're out of order.
Well, when I get a chance to talk.
There's no questions shall be asked by the town commissioners or anybody in the audience.
I just asked low income families.
That's all the questions for this witness, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, this time, procedurally, we need to ask if there's anybody who we claim to have standing who would like to cross-examine this witness in opposition.
Of course, I would.
You claim to have standing?
Would there be any low income family in that
Before
development?
you ask questions, we have to establish that you have standing to cross-examine it. You have to get up here and be sworn, and then I'll.
Okay, let me be sure, yes, sir. My right or left? Both of
Would you hold your right up?
Okay.
Put your left hand on the Bible. You swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Help me God, yes, sir.
All right. So you're not having to look back at me. I'm gonna sit over here for a second. To establish your standing.
I just only asked the,
Hold on a second, sir. To establish your standing, we have to regards to this applicant's application, so
Um.
hold on a minute, the applicant is asking to have a subdivision approved. You have to establish that you are particularly affected by this in some way, shape, or form.
Yes, I think it's just discriminating price-wise.
That would not qualify as standing.
Why not?
It has to particularly involve yourself, you personally.
Oh, okay,
Some financial
okay,
interest or
okay.
personal interest.
I might not be able to afford, the housing development that he's gonna produce.
That doesn't establish standing.
Well, what does establish it?
If you, for instance, had a property, owned property adjacent to it, for instance, that
Yeah.
would establish standing. If you were particularly harmed financially or otherwise by this proposed development, that would establish standing.
But what y'all trying to do is, y'all trying to put a limit on the price of the houses. $200,000 or $300,000.
Now, if you don't have standing, there will be an opportunity for parties, even without standing, in opposition to address in the.
Well, I sit back down there.
public hearing.
I sit back down.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I would suggest you ask if there's anybody else who would claim to have standing to cross-examine, Mr. Brown, the applicant's witness.
Is there anybody else that has standing that wants to cross-examine Mr. Brown? Thank you, Mr. Brown.
At this time, Mr. Mayor, call as our next witness Joshua Rinke with Ramey Kemp and Associates.
Swear me, Mike. He's having to serve two jobs
Too
tonight.
many jobs tonight. All right, right hand up. You swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do. Joshua Ranke, 5808 Farrington Place, Raleigh, North Carolina, Ramey Kemp and Associates.
And Mr. Rinke, can you provide the board with the benefit of your education, training, and experience as an engineer and traffic engineer?
Sure. I'm the state traffic lead at Ramey Kemp and Associates, registered professional engineer in the state of North Carolina. Got my civil engineering degree from Valparaiso University with over 18 years experience, and I'm pre-qualified by the NCDOT to conduct traffic impact analyses.
And in connection with your profession, how many traffic impact analyses have you personally prepared or been involved with?
Well over 100 this year alone, so probably thousands over my career.
At this time, Mr. Mayor, I will tender Mr. Rinke as an expert in the field of traffic engineering and conducting traffic impact analysis.
So acknowledge.
And Mr. Rinke, provide the board, if you would, the benefit of a broad overview of the work that is involved in conducting a traffic impact analysis.
Sure. So what we do is, even though this is below the threshold that typically is required to require a TA in terms of traffic expected by this development, we did conduct the traffic impact analysis following the town and NCDOT guidelines. We kept the NCDOT and the town staff involved all the way from the scoping, which is determining the study area, through the assumptions we had in there, the data collection, all those sorts of things. We wanted to make sure everybody was involved. We were following it the same way we would if a TIA were required. What we did was we took the previous TIA we had for what we'll call the northern site, where we had 92 units there. We wanted to make sure we were looking at this as a comprehensive sort of thing. So we said, we've got that traffic volume expected from that. We're now taking these other 85 units. We expanded on the study area that we previously had, kind of stretched that out to 301 with this additional access. We knew that that's good because it gives better distribution of the traffic from the site, but it also could impact other areas. So we wanted to make sure that we did look at other intersections as part of this. So what we had is, sort of briefly to get to it, we grew the traffic volumes up to the future year where this is expected to be built out. We included anything that we thought would be an adjacent development. That's another development that would be built before ours, as well as the traffic expected from ours. Run that analysis and sort of see what mitigation is necessary. As part of the first study, we did have turn lanes at that driveway that kind of punches through to the north at Main Street. We've got the left and the right turn lane there. That obviously we found is still something we'd recommend. It's not needed from a capacity standpoint, but from a safety standpoint, especially with those left turn lanes, we always like to get that traffic out of the through volume, avoid that potential rear end accident, get it safely into its own turn lane. So you have the turn lanes up there. Along 301 where they could kind of cut into the development, sort of the back way, if you will, there's already a two-way left turn lane. So we wanted to make sure that there weren't any stacking issues with the traffic kind of backing up into the two-way left turn lane. So we focused on that closely. We think that's adequate to accommodate the traffic. There were no capacity issues, no delays. They were actually comparable from what we consider no build conditions. If this development weren't in, to the build conditions, we were getting similar levels of service and incremental delay increases. So with the turn lanes that were recommended as the sort of first phase of this, or the northern portion, whatever we want to consider that, we think that'll adequately maintain an acceptable level of service and create safe conditions for the roadways out there.
And Mr. Ricky, for the benefit of the board, because I know they don't have time to look at this 120-page report while we sit here this evening, I noticed in my review in taking the traffic counts for conducting your updated traffic impact analysis was the week before Mule Day. Can you just kind of explain that and what impact it had on the counts and how you analyzed this?
Sure. Like I said, we expanded the study area, so we needed one more intersection counted out there. We sent our counters out there. It was the week before Mule Day, so there was a lot of preparation going on. So essentially, they said if it was a golf cart, if it was if it was a mode of transportation, they counted it. What we did to kind of verify, see if that seems like, does it seem out of the realm of possibility? We took the daily traffic out there, compared it to what we'd expect based on historical traffic grown to the current year. It was actually a little bit higher, so we figured if it's conservative, if the trips are higher because they're counting golf carts that are kind of zipping around and doing their thing that wouldn't normally be out there, then if we get acceptable levels of service, no safety concerns, that's even more justification that we'll be okay with typical conditions. So we kept them as is. Like I said, there were a lot of modes of transportation that probably aren't normally going on the roads because of when the counts were done, but it did show conservative and slightly higher than what would be expected.
And Mr. Rinke, at the conclusion of your analysis, did you prepare a report for this application?
Yes, I did.
Okay. I'll show you what I've marked as exhibit number 1. Is that the report that you prepared?
Yes, it
And
is.
does that have your engineering seal on that?
Yes, it does.
Mr. Mayor, at this time, I'd like to introduce exhibit number 1. So, Mr. Rinke, based on your knowledge, training, education, and experience, and in particular on the traffic impact analysis that you conducted relative to this preliminary subdivision application, are you of the opinion that this subdivision design will provide for the distribution of traffic in a manner that will avoid or mitigate congestion within the immediate area and will provide for the unified and orderly use of or extension of public infrastructure and will not materially endanger the environment, public health, safety, or the general welfare?
I do.
Mr. Mayor, that's all the questions I have of Mr. Rinke.
Does anybody have any cross-examination that they want to make of this witness?
If I may, Mr. Mayor, or Mr. Rinke, at this point, if you're gonna cross-examine the witness, you have to have standing. You have to be particularly affected. You have to have special damages. There are several different ways you can establish this. All right, I can help you with that if you claim to have standing. The one we've established, I think that you do not have standing. You will have an opportunity to speak when the applicant's presentation is done. All right, so if there's a party that has standing or claims to have standing, you can come forward and cross-examine the witness.
Anyone coming forward? Witness excused. Call your next witness.
Aaron Joseph, Mr. Mayor. Joseph and have introduced you, Mayor, for the record. Could you just tell the board your education, training, and experience relative to planning and zoning, please?
Yes, sir. I have been with the town for 6 years. I've been the planning director for 3 years next month. I have a master's degree in urban and regional planning from Virginia Commonwealth University. I graduated in 2012. I am a certified zoning official with the North Carolina Association of Zoning Officials.
At this time, I will tender Ms. Joseph as an expert in the field of planning and zoning and land use development.
So ready.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Joseph, were you present when I asked Mr. Brown his opinion relative to the 4 criteria that are required in order for approval of a preliminary subdivision plat?
Yes.
And could you hear as I read out each of those criteria?
Yes.
And based on your job experience, you're familiar with the 4 criteria that are required by the Town of Benson's Unified Development Ordinance?
Yes.
And are you of the opinion that all 4 of those criteria are satisfied based on the application before the board this evening?
Yes, I am.
No further questions for Ms. Joseph, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Does anyone like to cross-examine her? Ms. Joseph? Okay, shoot.
Mr. Mayor, that's all the witnesses I intend to call at this time, although I'll reserve the right to recall rebuttal witnesses if there's any relevant and competent testimony in opposition. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just real quick, first of all, Mr. Pope asked that an exhibit, or has presented an exhibit to you. For the record, you might want to consider, I would advise you to consider a motion and then a consideration of whether or not you want to put that into the record officially. And then, just to remind everyone, and especially you here that are considering this, as you consider the application and any opposition testimony, it has to be relevant, competent, substantial evidence. So just bear that in mind. And I would advise you to put that in the record by motion.
You want to make a motion to,
I can't, but I.
I'll entertain a motion to put that into the record.
I made a motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. We now go into the opposition testimony. Those wishing to speak in opposition to the application, please come forward now and be sworn.
It's up to the mayor if you want to speak, but you're in opposition. He's been sworn.
Is it tonight that when y'all supposed to vote on this proposal?
Sir, why don't you give your name and address this?
My name is Charles Warren Jr. I live 1414 Chicopee Road. And I own about 10 more of the properties here in Benson. And I'm thinking about buying that mansion over there, just as soon as I get the address.
Keep your testimony as factual and.
I think this proposal I think y'all should delay it on this voting tonight because enough study haven't been done. Because first of all, he didn't say how many cars per household. He's about 10 cars to every household in Benson now. And look all the traffic jam and so forth he's going to stir up.
Thank you for coming up. Anyone that's in opposition, come forward. No one coming forward, we move on to the application rebuttal, to the applicant rebuttal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't particularly have any rebuttal witnesses because I didn't hear any relevant, competent, or material evidence that addressed any of the 4 criteria that are before the board this evening for your consideration. We would contend that the applicant has met its burden of production through expert testimony that all of these criteria have been established, including by your own planning director, and we would respectfully request your approval of our preliminary plat. Thank you.
The floor is open for the commissioners now to ask questions of the applicant. Any questions?
I have no question.
Why don't y'all have questions? Y'all should have at least one question.
We move on to opposition to the rebuttal of the opposition. Does anybody come forward? So nobody had rebuttal. The commissioners require they ask additional questions to the applicant or opposition to the staff, whoever they need to make their decision. Any questions from the commissioners?
I have none.
No. Anyone have one?
And this is to the applicant only, correct?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, no questions to that.
We're now in deliberation. Call the commissioners into deliberation, and once you're called into deliberation, no person may address the commissioners, no question may be asked by the commissioners to the public. So we now have got to go take the action of decision. Will you put that up, Aaron?
Yes.
Or it's already up there?
You have to have the findings of that up there. You will deliberate each finding and a vote for each one, and then one unifying vote for approval or disapproval after each finding is deliberated and voted on.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion on the first item.
I made a motion to approve.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. On number 2, subdivision meet requires specification of this job.
I made a motion to approve.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Number 3,
I'll make a motion to approve.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Number 4,
I made that motion to approve.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. It's approved.
I would say just for procedural and the record, Mayor, that you consider then taking up approval now that all 4 criteria have been voted upon as approved has been met, then take up the matter as a whole to approve the applicant's subdivision plat.
I'll entertain a motion to approve this case.
I've made a motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. It's all approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, members of the board.
I know who I'm gonna vote for the next time election time comes. I'm voting all y'all out of here, all. Every last one of y'all.
All right, we're now on to, back on the agenda for the Police Advisory Commission. We have one application. There's filling an application or an opening that was vacated, and it'll be for the term to the end of the year. You have a copy of Jeffrey Seagrove's information. So, any discussion? It's after the all the stuff that was on the.
I got it.
He lives out of Eastwood.
It looks like this.
I have it, thank you.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve, Mr. Seagroves to the Police Advisory Board.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Consider approval of engineering firm for community development block grant infrastructure, CDBG 1, Tim Robbins.
Come to you tonight, asking for your approval to move forward with, awarding, for engineering services for, community development block grant that was, awarded to us. We put out a request for qualifications. We received 2 back. Staff has reviewed the qualifications that were presented and are recommending awarding to Withers Ravenel to provide engineering services on this project. Also in your memo, you'll find that we, under this grant, we were required to procure a firm also to provide administrative services for this, or administration services for this grant. We only received one proposal for that, so we will, we've re-advertised that or extended the advertisement on October the 6th, and expect to have that back on October 26th. So anticipate me coming back next meeting, hopefully with recommendation for award for whatever firm will be selected for administrative work.
Does anybody have any questions of Tim while he's up here? Okay, Tim, again, consider, you're not looking for a vote on that?
Yes, we need, I would like to have your concurrence or approval to move forward with awarding, awarding to Withers Ravenel to perform the engineering services for us.
I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I made the motion.
Any other questions? All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Consider approval of Clean Water State Revolving Fund project.
This is another project that we've pursued. A little over a year ago, we submitted for funding from the state for some sewer and some wastewater treatment plant upgrades and rehabs. Ultimately, we were awarded that at roughly $3.5 million. That is a state revolving fund award, so it's not a grant, it's a loan, but it's a 20-year loan with a 0.1% interest rate. So asking for your approval to move forward with executing that funding opportunity as well. The intent with this project specifically will work on upgrading the headworks components of our wastewater treatment plant. So basically the sort of the first third of the treatment process. This opportunity would fund that for us at an extremely low interest rate.
Does anybody have any questions of Tim on this? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Consider approval of on-call service agreement with Burford Tree Service.
Yes, sir.
Tim.
This is basically piggybacking or utilizing a contract that exists through Electricities. We're asking that we move forward with utilizing Burford Tree Service as it was. They've bid line item prices for tree trimming services for man hours as well as specific equipment. You'll find that in your memo. Asking for your approval to move forward with executing a service agreement with this group under the terms of that contract awarded through Electricities.
Does this replace the Elders?
It will replace Eldridge with some of our hot line trimming. So I still fully anticipate, mainly because this contract does not specify for tree felling. This is specific to line trimming. So we will most likely still use Eldridge Tree Service for tree felling, for some tree trimming. This is specific to hot line trimming. So this company is well equipped for trimming around live power lines, and we would like to move forward with this group to do this work in the future.
Does anybody have any questions of Tim? I'll entertain a motion.
I made a motion.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Thank you.
Discussion on the interim planning director, Fred Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioners, you have before you a memo indicating that our Planning and Zoning Department Director will be presenting her family with a very great Christmas gift early in December. and we'll see that she will be accessing leave, and we took the opportunity then to, in concert with her, to find a firm or agency to step in for her. You have before you the proposal from Insight Planning and Development, as well as Triangle J Council of Governments. You'll also notice that Insight has a very extensive proposal, and I gave you a page there where you see what the cost breakdown might be for different time frames that we might access them should you approve them. It comes in fairly pricey for the first set of meetings in November with Aaron to learn what the department has been doing and plans to be doing for the next few weeks, whether it be a 1 day a week, 2 or 3. And then you see there that the estimate for 12 weeks comes up to be, as you see there, for 1 day a week it's $17,009. For 2 days it's $31,360. For 3 days a week it's $44,800 for the total, or as an estimate for the total time that she would be out. Also for Triangle J Council of Governments, you'll see that they have a shorter and more concise presentation. There is a wide gap, you'll notice, between both of those entities in terms of how much they would charge us, but we would be receiving the benefit of being members of Triangle J, and so their estimate takes that into account as well. So you have Exhibit A is toward the back of your packet there, and our recommendation, just based on the services that they would be able to provide us and at the cost they would be able to do that for, is for Triangle J to contract with us to provide those services.
Who provided it last time?
That was In Focus, if I remember that correctly, yes. They were, by the way.
What is a lead fellow? I mean,
A lead
how far
fellow
up the
is-
chain do they go?
UNC, gosh,
Student?
yes, a graduate who would work with Triangle J. It's a program by which they can come into the field and do some work, and they would be supervised by a planner, a certified planner, and as well as, if I look at my paper here, there are 2 levels of supervision that person would have, and that would be the general supervision by the community and economic developer there, the planner 2, and then the NC lead fellow would be the person doing most of the heavy lifting. And we expect, after having talked with both agencies, that they could support us very well. And so that, hence our recommendation for TJ Cobb.
Does Aaron have a recommendation after looking at it?
Yes, Aaron, would you share with the board what your thoughts are about our proposals?
Yes, so I spoke with both representatives from Insight and from the Triangle Council of Governments, and both conversations went well. I think both are very capable to handle the workload and the type of requests and approvals that we're seeing right now. The difference in costs was stark to me, and so based off that alone, it was sticker shock, and it had me leaning towards the Council of Government, because you know, that's a lot of money for this town to spend when you have the Triangle Council of Governments, or they are a team of planners. The fellow would be the person coming to town, but they will have the backing of more experienced planners. So that gave me comfort. and knowing that it wouldn't just be a graduate student that does not have any field experience, and that the cost of having a more experienced planner with the Council of Government overseeing them, and those costs folded into the cost that they have presented to us, that gave me peace of mind. If there was a middle ground, I think that would have been ideal, but I'm not the budget guru, but I don't know if our budget could sustain, what we need at $44,000 for 12 weeks.
What is your recommendation? Are you recommending Triangle J?
Yes, based upon that, I recommend Triangle J. I think they will be competent enough to, and with the training during the month of November, so that they are well-versed in our office, our workload, our workflow, what to expect. And we would like to introduce them to the board and the planning board in November as well. So I think that will be key to the success of Insight for the next 12 weeks.
What's the feeling of the board?
Mayor, if I may, I didn't mean to cut you off, Commissioner. I did want to mention that there were 7 firms altogether that we took a look at, and these were the 2 that we wound up with.
What's the feeling of the board?
How often are we talking about a representative from Triangle J being here in Benson?
At least 2 days a week.
How?
2 days.
2 days per week?
Yes, sir. And there would be opportunity for them to come more often, and certainly they would be billing us based on that, as well as mileage to and from, and then throughout the community. I gave you I thought a conservative figure there for what mileage might cost per month, and even with the $1,675 billing they expect from us per month, plus the $600 of possible mileage, it comes up to $2,275 per month. And then if we think about estimated maybe 3 months service, that would be about $7,000.
So if you double the time you were talking about, you're just talking about $13,000, $14,000.
Yes.
So the 2 to 3 days a week, that would be with Triangle J. That would not be the fellow alone, correct?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I looked through this. I was very impressed with the planners from Insight, but after reading everything, I knew it really cost the town quite a bit of money. I mean, their experience and expertise is just outstanding. But then I looked at the Triangle J information, and we already worked with them, and I was I felt better knowing that someone was gonna, well, I already know what a fellow is, but I did feel good to know that a planner would have some type of oversight with the fellow. So, and besides that, the fellows, they come in and they need additional, the hours and stuff to, to put them in a more professional,
What do you think, Ms. Holly?
yeah, I wanna go with them.
I certainly think we need one, because I'm trying to remember why we didn't have one at the time. But right during that time, I had to have some plumbing work done to my daughter's house. And I had to call Smithfield to get a permit. And that was very cumbersome.
And that's still the case, and that's exactly why I stood back at the podium, because I thought I would be remiss if I did not mention that staff, we do have our building inspector as well as our administrative support specialist still in the office, and they are phenomenal. They have not been in the planning office as long as I have, but they are knowledgeable. They work hard to assist the community. Tia, she has it down pat with the planning board and getting the agenda and the minutes out. So, I think that they will be great support to anyone, and that will certainly make any consultant more successful, just because we have a great staff on hand. But to what you're saying, Commissioner Hawley, We are still in agreement with Johnson County to handle all of our building permits until Jamie Fisher, our building inspector, passes all of his tests to become the certified in all of his trades to become a building inspector. So that's why that you still have to go to Johnson County to get any type of trade permits, building permits, and things like that.
But we're hoping in the next 3 months that,
Yes,
we'll be able to get
he's
back.
planning to take the test, the electrical, which is the most daunting of all of the tests, by the end of this month, which will give him, if he does not pass the first time, which is not unheard of for the electrical examination, he has to wait 60 days. So that he's built into that. We're looking at the first of the year, when we hopefully will have our inspections department back in-house.
Would that bring him to a level 2 or a level 3?
It will bring him to a level 1 with with a level 2 probationary.
Okay.
We like to get that back because we're losing a lot of money to Johnson County.
Yeah, with all of the development approvals that we have, they've all.
Jim, what do you think?
I believe that, what I heard is the Triangle J proposal is probably the best for us. And I guess if we needed them an additional day or two during the week, they would probably be able to work that as well, for whatever reason that might pop up.
And they're certainly available for the planning board meeting and for this meeting as well.
Yeah, because I think, what was his name, Andy?
Yes.
That came before, so he was what, 2 to 3 days a week?
Yes. And he stayed on even after I came back to help me transition into the role of planning director. I don't think we need that this time.
No comment.
I ready to make a motion that we approve.
Thank you.
Triangle J, 2 days a week.
I'm making a motion that we approve Triangle 2 days a week.
Anything else anybody wants to say? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Thank you, Commissioners, Mayor.
Town managers report.
I have nothing at this desk.
Town attorney,
Unless there are questions, I'm talking up.
Dean.
I just got a question about the loan contract or the loan maintenance. Did we talk to Lane?
Yes, I talked to him, he went out there the next day, I believe.
And go out there the next day. I was out there 7 days or 8 days prior. After that, still 3 foot high.
7 days after.
After I sent y'all that text, it's still same.
What are you talking about, Dane?
Town property, got a phone call, their neighbors around that property have been having to cut the grass. And they finally called me and said, look, we're tired of cutting the grass, they're not cutting it. And I went over there and took a picture of it, and it ain't been mowed in a while.
It's a sewer lift station.
Yeah.
I will go out there personally tomorrow and take a look. There may be a misunderstanding in who's to be mowing what, but I'll get it cleared
I got
this
you.
week.
That's all I got.
Cassandra,
Nothing.
Ms. Holly.
Not at this time.
Just one question, how are we out there with the soccer field thing after the incident right before Mule Days?
Our GFL, our dumpster contractor, they sent a contractor with a skid steer, worked over, the area that they had damaged. They satisfactory repaired it. We were intending to top dress, our first top dressing around with sand, so they took care of all the damage that they created. We followed that up with our first, sand top dressing, so, there's no issues lingering from that at this time.
Anything else?
May, I do. I want to talk about the Mule Day Parade. I want to personally thank the police officer because I understand they were working with less officers this year than ever before. And reading the paper and looking back, it seems to be the best year that you've had, even with all the officers. So I commend them for a job well done. The town staff as well. I think you've done a beautiful job with the parades. You got anything to say?
Yeah, Jared didn't act up this year, it was all good.
I had two things I wanted to bring up. One was Mule Day, and I don't think anybody realizes, except the ones that were involved, how much work it was to have a Mule Day this year because we didn't have as much, or at least Loretta didn't have as much time to plan it as she usually does. So my hat is really off to Loretta and all the people from the town that got out and worked late at night and early in the morning. And the good news about the Mule Day is that we had more trash than we've ever had, so that means that there was more eating going on than there's ever been. So I think we probably can put a gold star on that Mule Day, and thank you for all you did and what the police department did and the fire department and everybody. We had some people here from Nashville that saw through, and I got a message back from one of them that said, remind us next year when it is, but I don't think we'll wait till next year. When you have something going on in Benson, let us know. I said, well, we have something about every week, so you come anytime you want to. So it really was a good time, and everybody, for the most part, behaved themselves. I don't think they put too many people in jail. So thanks for what everybody did, and thanks most of all to Loretta. Anything else? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I made the motion.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. We are adjourned. All right.